Welcome, everyone. And we are live at our new show, second episode. We do have a title. Our show title is Healthy Mindset, Transforming Your Life One Thought at a Time. And that's exactly what we do. We want to give you little tidbits to work on. You know, we don't want you to have to eat the whole apple at one bite. You know, just take little bites and work off on the apple. And that's kind of how life is, folks. It gives you a taste, and you're supposed to go at it one bite at a time. But you can go at it from a negative side, or you can go at it from a positive side. And it's not just about positive thinking. What do I mean about positive thinking? It's funny, I just came back from a conference in Arizona, and a colleague of mine had asked, what I did for a living. And I had mentioned that I was in the insurance business for 25 years, but just recently got into the self-improvement business. And he said, self-improvement, is that like positive thinking? I said, well, it's a portion of that, yes. And he's like, yeah, that positive thinking doesn't work. And I said, you know something, you're right, it doesn't, if that's all you base it on. It's not just about positive thinking, but that's the start. When you think about whatever you want in life, or whatever you want to accomplish, or whatever you want to do, yes, you have to think positively, but then that thought in your mind has to lead to a feeling. And that feeling will then create the action, and that action will then give you the result. So you could read a goal that you have for yourself every single day, 3 times a day, and not go any further than that, because it's not getting from here to your feelings. And then that from your feelings, it needs to go into action. And a lot of people get tripped up, not so much from the positive thinking. They get the thinking to the feeling, but they don't use that feeling. They don't act on it. Just like a lot of people that graduate with degrees in college, and they don't follow through in their major, or whatever it may be. We need to act, folks, on whatever it is that we want. And I think the first course of action would be, what do you want? What does our audience members want? Truly. And then you really need to think about that. And then once you have an idea of what you want, then you can start beginning to act upon that. And the best way to do that is with one of your higher mental faculties. We have 6 of them, but one of them is imagination, right? We all can imagine things. It's funny because I say funny in an ironic way. Most of us use our imagination in a negative way, through worry and fear and doubt. And we say, oh, geez, if all this happens, what would I do? I better stay where I am. And that's generally what happens subconsciously with a lot of us. We don't go after the riskier things, but quite frankly, everything's a risk. To risk nothing at all is probably the biggest risk you'll ever take in your life. So today's show is going to be similar to what it was last show. We're going to have an interview with my dear friend, Dr. Beth. She's going to ask a few questions. We're going to get into a few things in that respect and try to really piece together what we're all about, what this scientific philosophy is, and really how we can use it to our advantage in a practical way. And then from there, we are going to break to another segment. We're going to have and hear from our audience members, those that write in either through email, text, or phone. And we'll take some of those questions today that we have selected from our audience members. So that is the plan. Sit tight. We'll be right back, and we'll have our interview with Dr. Beth. Thank you very much.
Welcome back, Paul.
Good to be back.
Great to see you again. Nice pleasure to have you back from our last episode last month.
Beth, pleasure is all mine. You know this.
All right, don't get started too soon now.
We're getting the funnies already. We're getting the funnies.
Thank you. Great to have you back. So, just getting to the point here, because we have limited time, because we have a lot of questions today from our audience too.
Yes,
So you just had returned back from a trip, a business trip,
I did.
From Arizona?
Yeah, yes.
and so my question is, anything from that experience this weekend that you would apply to now regarding the program, personally or professionally?
Yeah, that's a good insight there, because I had a credit union conference in Arizona. Every 3 years or so, you go to a conference to receive continuing education. And I figured, what better time of year than March to go to Arizona from Rhode Island, right? You know, the weather was good. Unfortunately, I didn't bring the weather back with me. But it's ironic, because we were there Wednesday through Sunday, and the weather was fantastic. Dry heat, 78 to 83 every day. The wife was by the pool. I was in the conference. We went to dinner, and we went to a place called Old Town, which had a lot of shops and restaurants and things, and it was fantastic. But I reflect on your question, was it fantastic because the weather was good? Or was it fantastic because we made the best of whatever it was, you know? And I think so much with so many people depends on the outside. Well, if I'm not with a bunch of jerks, and if these people aren't, rude, and they're nice people, it'll be a good trip. And if the weather's sunny and warm, it'll be a good trip. But I think we need to have the mindset of the trip's going to be great, no matter what happens. And on our way back, as we discussed in the car, we got delayed. You know, we were coming from Phoenix to Chicago to Providence, and we got delayed in Chicago.
2 days, almost 2 days?
Well, that's what it was. They said, okay, we don't have any flights today, because we got in at 8:30 p.m. So not only are you going to spend the night in Chicago, but you're not leaving until 4:30 p.m. the next day, and we're going to fly you to D.C., Washington, D.C., and when you get in there at 7:30 in the p.m., you'll have to stay overnight in D.C., and then the next day we'll fly you to Rhode Island.
Just to get back.
Yeah, now that would drive many people bananas. That's crazy.
So you're saying, because of this deterrent, how that can influence you on your return back with an attitude. You could have a negative attitude or a positive attitude.
Beth, quite frankly, I was kind of put off. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to say, oh, I'm this guru. Yeah, right. I was bummed out. I was like, this is ridiculous. You could see my attitude. My wife knew, you know what I mean? So we weren't really talking. And then, it kind of dawned on me, listen, buddy, practice what you preach. Exactly. No matter what you do in life, we all can give dialogue. We all can give directives to people, but sometimes it's taking them. Whether it be the therapist that's telling you how to be, that doesn't act the same way, or a doctor that says you shouldn't be smoking and he's outside smoking a cigarette or whatever have you. So with this setback that we had with the travel plans, we took it in stride. And we said, okay, well, let's just see if we can get a better opportunity. And we went to 2 agents, and there wasn't an opportunity. They couldn't do anything for us. And we said, let's just do a third one. We'll see if we can get to the DC a little bit quicker. And we talked to Bobby. Bobby was a great guy.
More delays.
Oh, just a great guy. And he's like, I had asked him, he's trying to help us out, and I said, is Bobby your birth name? He's like, actually, yes, it is. I said, where are you from? He's like, where am I from originally? I said, yeah. He's like, India. I said, okay, you look Indian. And I said, don't let me ask you any more questions so you can help us out here. But he was just a great guy. And you know what he did? He's like, instead of pushing us to go to customer service, he called customer service himself. It wasn't because of what I did.
Right,
It's
right.
because of him. He was just that type of person. He went above and beyond. And that was special. And I felt that. And he got us a flight that left at 8:30 p.m. that night, but it still was better than spending the night in D.C.
Right.
So we took that in stride and we said, you know something? Thanks be to God for people like Bobby. So then, what was it? My wife and I would joke around and say, okay, we're going to be Bobby now. We're going to be happy and go lucky, right? You know what I mean? And that's kind of your question. What did you learn? Just the little things in life like that, you know? So that's what I would say, that just the two small things, so to speak.
Well, that's what I was meaning about how your program, taking a negative situation that could be stressful,
Yeah.
but you turned it around,
Yeah.
you know, to
Right.
make it positive and get back safely too.
Yeah, no, right, exactly. Well, we weren't driving the plane,
know.
so that
Thank
was in
God.
God's hands, and
Well,
that was,
Bobby
well, the
was.
pilot's hands. Right. Bobby was praying for us as well. But, you know, I think when you give off positive thinking and you give off pleasant thoughts, it's energy. And that energy that you're giving out comes back to you. That's the universal law of cause and effect. When you think negative, vengeful, angry, bitter thoughts, that tends to come back in your life. It really does. And when you start thinking, and genuinely start thinking good, positive, constructive thoughts, yeah, it will start, helping you feel better, acting better, but it starts bringing stuff, manifesting things back to you.
But it
So-
takes practice,
It
too.
does. It takes practice. But you know what also it takes? It takes a decision. I can decide to love my spouse, or I can decide not to.
Well, that's a topic for another show. Not
True.
for today. We don't
Yes.
have enough time for
Right.
that today.
Exactly. But that was a great question.
But exactly, that's what I was talking about with you taking the business trip and having that opportunity to really exercise
Yeah.
what your program is about.
Yeah, and,
So
I
this-
think we did. I think both my wife and I did that, after a little bit of a setback. And it worked out well.
well, we're glad.
All
you
right, so
had
what
that.
else you got for me?
Okay, well, what I have next for you too is, so on our last program, we talked about how to help others, the positive influence on them. And again, so my question today is for you, how else are you changing personally, professionally, by using the programs?
Yeah.
How are you exercising
so you're
that
calling
training?
me on the carpet right now. Is
I
what
am.
what you're
Not
doing.
just from your trip back from Arizona, but
Yeah.
for day to day,
Yeah.
because every day we're all set back with
Right.
the stresses of the day.
Yeah, and,
you know.
and I think that's a fair question, Beth, because if you wanted to get in shape physically and work out and hire a personal trainer, I think your first step would be to hire a personal trainer that's fit and that's in shape, right? That's not overweight and overweight in the sense of 200 pounds overweight. You want someone that lives the part. And I think that's what I try to do every day in what I study. So part of my morning routine is to study 1 hour of myself. Nobody else. Studying of oneself. And what do you mean by that? What do I mean by that, studying myself?
Like before exercising? I just want to clarify.
Well, no, I exercise at 5:30 in the morning.
Okay, so
then
when-
I go to church, and then I come home for breakfast. I then walk the dog, and then I get into my office around 8:30 in the morning. And at that point is when my study begins.
Okay, so you take that 1 hour.
And that 1 hour consists of either videos or reading or a combination of the two, and learning more about myself. And a lot of the material is repetitive. It's stuff that I've studied before, but now it's ingraining into my mind. I speak a lot about positive thinking into feelings into action. I have to continually to do that. You know what I mean? You have to continually creating that habit.
Well, that's why I was
Yeah.
using the term exercising. You're exercising what you're
So
teaching.
yes. So what I'm trying to do to answer your question, what specific things I'm doing, is my attitude. Do I have an attitude that, number one, my spouse would be happy with, and number two, a colleague would be happy with, and number three, a potential client, would they be happy
Right,
with my
right.
attitude? So it's sometimes I have to adjust my attitude. I may not think I'm in a bad mood, but I may be coming across that way.
Right.
So it's really getting in touch with yourself and becoming mentally aware of what's going on, and we can go from there. You know.
Well, I really appreciate your feedback on that.
You know what I mean? And that's just one small thing. But you know, as we go through, we'll talk about these things. I'm anxious to hear the next question.
From the audience one or the
No,
other
the
question?
audience one's our next segment.
Oh,
But the ones that you
okay.
came up with.
Oh, my other question.
You made
here.
up some cards today,
I
too,
did
didn't
make
you?
up some cards today. So you were speaking about attitude,
Yeah.
okay? So something that I came across today in my readings is, and I knew you would appreciate this, so I thought I'd bring it along. Attitude is the mind's paintbrush. It can color any situation.
Can you,
Attitude is the mind's paintbrush. It can color any situation.
yeah. And again, that, you know, you can get very detailed on that. But think about that. If you have a negative attitude, it's going to paint the situation for you, isn't it? Mm-hmm. But what's it going to paint? It's going to paint it in a dreary, dark color. But if you have a vibrant attitude, that's generally what you're going to paint. Isn't that what the quote's pretty
That's
much
exactly
stating? Yeah, I think that's fantastic because for our audience to understand, attitude, you already have it. It's not anything you have to go out and buy or do anything different. You don't have to exercise it. You don't have to lose weight or anything like that. You can change your attitude in the snap.
But
it's
that does take practice,
It
too.
does take
and
practice because there
exercise.
can be things that you've built in internally that have hurt you. Absolutely.
So using your program again,
Mm-hmm.
if you came across in your day-to-day in a situation and somebody had a negative impact, you're going to, you know, go get your groceries, person's a little cranky there.
Yeah.
Do you find that by you having a positive attitude, that you can actually affect the other person and you can see their demeanor maybe change from pessimistic to maybe positive when you engage with a positive attitude?
Yeah,
I do.
that's a double-edged sword. Yes, having a positive attitude can have a direct effect on someone else in a positive way, and they can, you know, be a little bit more chummy, so to speak, and be a little bit more bubbly. But it can also have a negative effect sometimes. And I say that, you know, if it doesn't come across genuine,
Authentic.
authentic, right?
Okay.
And that could really just upset the other person too. Oh, look at this person coming at me with this bubbly attitude. They're so full of baloney or whatever. So it can kind of backfire, and then that could lead me to be negatively sarcastic with that person. You know what I mean? I
Oh,
can
so
dive
you
into
feed.
them. I can
Okay.
dive into their energy. No, I shouldn't do that. You know what I mean? I might be able to tone down my attitude, get more on a level, and then try to bring them up to where I am, as opposed to them bringing me down.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it can kind of be convoluted in that respect. But yes, I agree with you. By having a bubbly attitude, it's certainly going to have a better effect on someone. But it has to come across authentic, like you said, and genuine, for sure.
Well, just like your trip returning, you know, you
Yeah.
leaving Arizona, you had a great weekend, good productive conference, you're
Right.
heading back. Now you have all these detours.
Yeah, my wife and I ended up in jail,
You
actually,
know.
because we were so belligerent to the...
And again, that's for another episode, another show.
Right, but no, it was good because once you study this material continually, it starts to get ingrained in you. It's like doing a drug. You know what I mean? If you're into drugs, or alcohol,
not.
or any food. You know what I mean? That you start, you know, doing something regularly, it becomes addictive. You know, and you can do something addictive in a positive way. That's going to give you pleasant results.
So how else I'm going to say personally, maybe with your family, let's just say, having a positive influence, the changes you're making by using your program.
Yeah.
I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah, I will, I don't want to say warn you, I will be, I will be candid in saying to you that the most difficult people to win over or to see a change is the ones you love the most. And it's like having a child and the child grows 6 inches in 1 year. You don't notice a thing in a certain respect. But everyone's like, oh my goodness, I can't believe your child, big he's gotten. Or, you know, so when you change, your loved ones, whether it be spouse, children, they may be the last ones to see that change and notice that change because they're with you so much. And I may be, and I know for a fact, I'm not always the best example to the ones that I love, to my wife. Because she says to me a number of times, I said, oh, I thought you were some self-improvement guy. You don't sound like one to me.
So she actually catches you.
No, of course, she catches me on the carpet all the time, you know? So yeah, that's the biggest challenge, you know, is to really live this all the time. It's like you can be really pious in church, but outside the church, you're a jerk. What's the point? You know what I mean?
Pull out of the parking lot and just cut off that
Hey,
person.
come on, buddy! You know, exactly, though. You know, you need
But that's what we do.
Yes, we do. So
You
we
know?
need to change that and start being that bubbly persona that we have all the time. Are we going to take some questions from the audience?
We are.
Okay,
And
so we'll be. You want to
do.
take it away? You want to tell the audience? We'll be right back. And
all right. Well, first of all, I want to thank you again, Paul. It's such a pleasure to have you back.
Always a
So it was
pleasure. I
thrill
love
to
this,
be back
Dr.
in the
Beth.
studio. And yes, we're going to come back. We do have a couple of questions from the audience.
wonderful.
Thanks
See you in a
again.
bit.
Welcome back, Paul. Great to see you again.
Yes.
And we have a couple of questions today from the audience.
I just want to interject real quick. I am very,
Really?
I'm very excited from audience
Pressed for time.
precipitation. You know, so this is what I'm looking forward to so much. So we got some pre-selected questions.
We do have some pre-selected questions. And just remind me at the end, we do want to give out the email.
Oh, right.
You know, so as a reminder.
Yes.
They can send in some questions later. All right, so our first question is Maurice. He's from Omaha, Nebraska. His question today is, how does his own negative or positive thinking affect someone else?
Okay. Yeah. It seems pretty simple, but it can be complex, and we kind of alluded to it a little bit when it comes to positive and negative thinking. Most people don't really give it much thought. You know, it's kind of like drinking, you know, whiskey every day and not thinking it's going to affect your liver. You know what I mean? At some point, it probably can.
I don't think that's on the card. I don't think Maurice is referring to his drinking.
I'm making an analogy. So when it comes to positive and negative thinking, when you start truly thinking positively, not just randomly, but really thinking about what you want and what you want to do and how to make situations better, inwardly focusing yourself of being better. And when you change yourself from your thinking, when you change yourself, everything on the outside will change for you. It's not the reverse. It's not like when I change my colleague at work, work will be better. No, it's you changing, even though you may be a better fit in that respect. So
Okay.
if the thinking is positive, you're going to get positive results if it's done consistently. And it's
Okay.
done, you know, it's not what you do once in a while. It's what you do most of the time. So if you're thinking positive thoughts generally once in a while, but generally it's going to be negative thinking, well, that's what you're going to get in results. You're going to get, you know, negative results from that negative thinking.
Okay.
It's as simple as that, Maurice.
We appreciate Maurice. Because what Maurice had put on the second part of his question was his employment. He's not very happy with his job, so he's kind of coming through the doors of his work kind of pessimistic,
Yeah.
negative. He wants to change that a little bit so he
Sure.
can...
Yeah, that's the thing. I think a lot of people want to change the culture of whether it's their home, their work environment, and they try to change everything on the outside, when in fact, all they need to do really is change it up here. And I'm not saying you're going to make it better, but when you have a better outlook, things are going to be better. So the other point that I was told about this is, if things aren't the way you like it, then change it by doing something about it. Either leaving to a different job or just being a different person, in spite of what's troubling you there at work. And sometimes there are unhealthy employment.
Right. Work environments.
Work
so-
environments, absolutely.
Well, maybe Maurice needs another new job.
We're going to get Maurice a job. So, Maurice, you stick with us, you email us, we're going to get you, we're going to be better than Indeed. We're going to get you a new job.
And we appreciate your question, Maurice. So, second question there, Paul. Next person is Louise. Actually, she's from Louisville, Kentucky. I did not make that up.
Louise from
Louise
Louisville.
from Louisville, Kentucky.
She's Kentucky Derby.
Kentucky, no.
Yeah, probably.
She is actually a stay-at-home mom,
Okay.
and her passion is really music and creativity.
Okay.
She is finding it very challenging to maintain the home and teaching, education at home, but where her
Homeschooling?
homeschooling,
Okay.
but her heart and desire is in her music and creativity. So what would be your suggestions to her, again, using your program
Yeah.
and being an influence for her to find that opportunity to pursue her music and creativity with such a tight schedule?
Yeah, so I think one of the good things that Louise, it is?
Louise.
Louise, hi Louise.
Yeah.
What's a good thing that she has going for her is she knows what she wants to do. She has a
Exactly.
passion for her music. But what I'm hearing in your questioning of Louise is that you're feeling a bit stifled because of your homeschooling and your chores as a stay-at-home mom. And what a lot of folks get uncomfortable with is that they know what they want and they want to know how to get there immediately, so to speak. So for Louise, it may be once a month dedicating something for her passion of music. You had mentioned something about that, didn't you?
I said make an appointment, just like she's got to
Yeah.
take the kids to appointments, there's a schedule to actually make an appointment for herself,
Yeah.
because it gives her that time,
Beth, that's absolutely perfect, though.
because then you have to stick to it. She gives herself
Well, you
that
schedule
opportunity.
it. If you generally when you schedule things, they
You
get
stick to
done.
it, right.
And again, the intent has to be perfect. The fact that you do it doesn't have to be. So the fact that we say we're going to work out 5 days a week and we only do it 3 times, that's fine. Our intent is to work out 5 days a week, but not to do it. It doesn't mean that it's a failure. We've done it 3 out of the 5. So for her, once a month maybe do something, or once a week do something with her music. Whether it's in our town, we can go to the United Theater. They have programs and things that they have an open mic, or they can to show off their prowess of their passion. So just do
That's what she
little
was saying.
things towards your passion. So instead of going from A to Z, go from A to B to C, and so on and so forth, and you'll get there. You will.
Well, that's what she was saying in the second part of her question, was that she found out there was some improv at a local place nearby that's once a month.
We're gonna go.
And I think we should go. We can listen to Louise.
Yes, right.
And
We'll have to
she
go to
keeps
Kentucky,
putting it
though.
off. It's like once a month.
Yeah.
She
So
she
you
wants
said
to
it.
go
Make
and
the
play
appointment. Make the appointment.
her music, and she keeps putting it off.
Yeah. Well, what I would say to Louise is don't put it off, Louise. Get on that horse and play that music. You know, and what I mean by that is do something that's going to move you forward to your passion. Even if it's once a month, then it'll be twice a month. Next thing you know, it's once a week. You
And
know?
she'll feel better doing.
I think so. You know, all of us, you know, it's mental therapy as it is much physical therapy too. So that's great.
Louise,
We have
thank you
time
very
for-
much.
we
I
have
think-
time for one
I
more?
think we have a little more time for one more question, and our last question of this little segment is from Gail, right here from our own neighborhood here in Hopkinton, Rhode
Oh,
Island.
wow, she's in our zip code right
She
here.
is in our zip code, and Gail's got quite the little well, I'll give you the question. So Gail, happily married, her
Relatively.
husband is very set in his ways. Gail is wanting to be more adventuresome. And again, with your program, how can she inspire her husband, John, to become more adventuresome?
Yeah, and I think that's the first problem is how can we change someone else? And that's not necessarily the first thing you should be thinking of. It's how can I think on a better atmosphere to get my husband that, what is he? He's more...
He's an accountant.
He's an accountant. Okay, so most of those guys are pretty regimented, pretty, you know, stuck in their ways, so to speak. And I don't want to stereotype anyone, because I'm your typical salesman, right? But the thing is, you have a husband like that. You know something, Gail? Why don't you find out what the adventuresome things you want to do? You know?
Well, she came up with, we have three things. There was scuba diving,
Okay.
a hot air balloon, parachuting,
Oh my goodness, skydiving.
and skydiving. John
Okay.
has absolutely no interest in any of Gail's
Well, yeah, right.
adventures.
Now,
So
yeah, listen.
your
Dr.
program,
Beth, Dr. Beth, do you understand where we're going here? Gail, if you can do one thing for us, you're going from A to Z, you know, from adventuresome, you know, hot air ballooning, skydiving, scuba diving. That might be a lot tougher for, you know, is it John,
John.
the accountant, that's a little stuck in his ways. You know, maybe,
kayaking,
that might even be a stretch, you know, but that's at least a little bit better. Try to do something a little bit less, maybe to a local eatery or a tavern to do some dancing or square dancing or something, something along those
I'm not
lines.
sure that's what Gail,
But Gail may want something that's adventuresome that she mentioned.
she does.
But she might settle for something that's just a little bit outside of John's, you know, cue, so to speak. So get John out of the box a little bit, and then we can get him, you know, eventually maybe skydiving and scuba diving once he starts getting used to some of these other things.
Well,
you see what
maybe-
I'm saying?
Maybe we should get John on the show.
We're going to get John on the show. We're going to save the marriage. I think the marriage is going down the tubes right now. I'm joking. God forbid we run into them now at Walmart. They're like, yeah, thanks a lot. But no, in all seriousness, Gail, it's really moving from a step from A to B to C. Don't do something so elaborate, adventuresome. Do something, maybe a trip to Walmart is adventuresome for him. Do that, and then do something, dinner out.
Try
You know,
one
music.
of these that Paul's suggesting, Gail.
Yeah, something.
Right back in again so we
Yes.
can give you back some more feedback.
And we'll go from there. Taking things off the rails for sure. Okay, what do we have coming up for next time? We can make it as elaborate as we can. Folks, we're here for you. That's what it's all about. We're here for you. The farm animals didn't go over well at all. Nobody wanted a sheep or a goat. So what we're going to do is we're going to find something for you next time. We're going to give you the healthy mindset, transforming your life one thought at a time.
And come back with some more questions.
Yes, sounds good.
Thank you again.
See you next time.
Appreciate it.
All righty.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye now.
Thank you.